So did you know, according to social media, we all have a posh version of our name? And the posh version of my name is Ellen Stoke-Hinchcliffe. If you don't know what yours is, you can create it in 3 easy steps. You take your grandparents' first name. So in my case, that was Ellen. And you compare that with, or combine that, the street you grew up in, so Stoke Road, and your head teacher's surname. And you have a posh version of your name. Quite good fun, isn't it? The funny thing is, whenever I do that exercise, even in a room full of security people, somebody always puts their hands up and tells me. And of course, as we know in the security industry, what we've just given away is a little bit of information that's probably used to secure a bank account or recover a password. Well, as you know, my name isn't Ellen Stoke-Hinchcliffe, it's Sarah James, and I am owner and managing director at Layer 8, a business that is set up to create proactive security cultures. And we do that through engaging everybody in the business in a conversation about security. What I want to talk about today is what is happening at that point in our brain where we make the choice to give away that information about ourselves or click on a phishing link, and look at some practical ways that we can mitigate those risks in our organisations. So let's have a look at this statistic first. This one really fascinates me because what it's saying is that typically from an email being opened up and somebody clicking on a suspicious link, it takes less than 10 seconds. I mean, less than 10 seconds isn't even enough time to read the email, let alone go through the 10 or 15 security checks we ask people to do, to hover over the link, to check the sender, look to see whether the email address has been spoofed, etc., etc., etc. So what's actually happening? Well, what's happening is that action of clicking has been auto-responded to by the feeling part of our brain. So if we have a look at the 3 memory systems of our brain in very simple form, a quick psychology lesson. In simple form, there are 3 memory systems of the human brain. We have our ancient reptilian brain, and that's just doing stuff that we're probably not even aware of. It's growing our hair, growing our fingernails, breathing, etc. It's all happening in the background. Then we have our limbic system, and our limbic system is where we get all of those feelings, from joy to pain, anger, sadness, all going on in the limbic system. And then we have the neocortex. And the neocortex is really what sets us apart as human beings. This is where we process thoughts. This is where our amazing scientific advancements happen, our rational thought processing part of the brain. But it's the limbic system that I want to have a look at in a little bit more detail, because the limbic system is where we really get that feeling that our training's just not working. It's where we get that impression that, you know what, we keep teaching people and telling them about the new risks and threats, but they just don't change behaviour. It can leave us frustrated. So what's happening in the limbic system? Well, first of all, we have this little almond-shaped, almond-sized piece called the amygdala. And in the amygdala, we can have what's known as an amygdala hijack. Now, if you've never heard of an amygdala hijack, I can almost guarantee you that you will have felt an amygdala hijack, because it's that gut-wrenching, sicky, heart-pounding feeling that you get when something takes you by surprise, it shocks you, or you hear a piece of bad news. Most commonly felt when we have road rage, or we have children of a certain age. You know, it can make our blood boil, can't it? Our passengers are left thinking, why on earth did they behave like that? And of course, if we had our rational brains on, our rational thought processing part of our brain, we probably wouldn't have behaved in the same way either. The second thing that happens in our limbic system is it's where our 4 happy hormones sit. And even though the feeling there is pleasurable, joy, pride, social bonds, actually we still auto-respond in the same way. We don't think through the process. The limbic system was a fantastic resource back in the days where hunger and fear needed to drive us to catch and spear our food for dinner. But actually now, those things come in the forms of little red notifications. And we are so conditioned as human beings to seeking reward that we are actually constantly putting ourselves in harm's way, aren't we? We're checking our emails. We're looking for things and scrolling all of the time. But we need to look at a different way of doing this. So the challenge that we have as an industry is we like to teach people knowledge. We give people knowledge all the time, how to recognize a phishing email, how to set up secure Wi-Fi's, knowledge, 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 knowledge. But it's all going into our neocortex. It's all going into our rational thought processing part of our brain. But as I've just said, the information never gets to our neocortex when we're being phished or when we're really busy and we send out that information and accidentally misdirect it. It's happening before it gets to our neocortex in our limbic system. Our feelings are driving the actions, which is why we can be left so frustrated that we give information and knowledge, yet nobody ever changes behaviour. So what do we need to do? Very tricky, but it's about creating a culture. It's about creating a culture that's alert to the risks and threats, and one where the automatic response, the habit, is the secure one. So when we talk about security culture, people can think that, what does it actually mean? But I've got a really simple definition of security culture for you. And that is, security culture is what we say and what we do that demonstrates what's important to us. So to create the right security culture, we can't do that on our own, particularly if we are in a large organisation. We need people all around us who can become champions of the security culture, who can say and do and lead the change in the right way. So I want to talk you through 6 principles now that can help you create champions of security culture. Let's think about this quote right at the top for a moment. Conversation is our most powerful catalyst for change. And how true is that? Let's think about when we change behaviour. I mean, when we really change, when it sticks, we've usually had a conversation with somebody. Conversations can give us context. Conversations can give us meaning. Conversations allow us to ask questions and make things relevant to us and to our situations. So the first thing that we want our champions of security culture to be able to do is to have courageous conversations about security, because change is socially constructed through our interactions. As I said, how many of us have ever changed our behaviour after reading a policy? Probably not many. And this is why things like diet groups work so well. Because when we go and attend a group and we can talk to people, share recipe ideas, discuss what's working and what isn't working, then it can really aid our change. And through champions, we can create and facilitate that same type of conversation where we're really helping people and supporting them through the changes in behaviours. Secondly, we want our champions of security to be able to amplify strengths. Now, in security, we often talk about the weaknesses. We talk about what's going wrong. We talk about the breaches. We talk about the thefts. We talk about the bad behaviours. But actually, it's very difficult for somebody sitting outside of security to really get a feeling that I have the courage that I can actually do something that makes a difference. If we are able to find the strengths that already exist within a person, an organisation or a team, and use those strengths to build the new security culture, it gives people a much better and more positive start. So let me give you an example here. Imagine that the very first day of a new job, you walk in or you open up your Zoom or Teams and your new boss says to you, "Welcome to the new role." Things work around here quite differently. Don't worry, it might take a bit of time to get to know the people and processes, but I'm sure you'll be fine. Or you walk into the job and your boss says to you, "Welcome to the new role. We hired you for your cybersecurity talents, but we also saw brilliant communication skills. And those communication skills are really going to support you to get to know the people and the processes in our business." A completely different stance. The first focuses purely on the deficits. It's a different organisation. The second takes a strength that they already know this person possesses, communication skills, and challenges them to use that to get to know the organisation. It can really build confidence. And the same is true of cybersecurity. People can be unsure of it because it's new words, it's a new area, but actually there's a lot of talents and skills that they can bring from their day-to-day roles that will help them in their cybersecurity best practices and behaviours. Thirdly, champions of security culture have a positive focus. And again, we talk about security often looking at the weaknesses, but there are so many examples of strengths, of stories where people have done the right thing, where people have protected their organisation or the business, maybe through something of a traditional security focus, but perhaps it's saving the organisation some money, working really hard to deliver a quality product. And if we can find those stories, those positive stories, and focus on them, then again, we can give people the confidence. We can set people up with a belief that their behaviours really matter. And I give you an example here. How many times have we examined the root cause analysis of a breach? Probably hundreds. Yet how many times have we analysed the root cause analysis of what went right? Because when we find what made it go right, what were the core underlying values that allowed that success to happen, we can say, how can we replicate that again in other areas that we might be challenged with? The fourth area, champions of security build trusted relationships. Because when we know somebody, when we really know somebody, we can have much better and more quality conversations with them. So imagine, for example, that you're trying to work with the HR team and you know that they do a lot of CV sifting and you want to help them protect PII data. If you talk to the person and you find out that actually they see their role as talent acquisition managers, they are acquiring and finding the best talent for the business, suddenly it means that you can have a much better, high quality conversation about how to protect that data once you know what drives them. We talk about champions of security culture being able to ask better questions. And that's so important because questions are powerful. You know, sometimes when you walk into a room and you just want to tell people about all the horror stories and what they need to do to protect the business, and it falls on deaf ears. Sometimes engaging them by asking them a really good question to begin with and allowing them to think through and come to the outcome themselves means that the behaviour sticks. We know about that, through school and children. You can't tell them not to cross the road. You've got to help them learn. So imagine there's been a security incident and you walk into the incident room and you say to people, what's gone wrong? We need to work out what's gone wrong and fix it. Or you could take the time to set a slightly different tone. You could say, this is a really tough time right now for our organisation, but how fortunate do we feel to be working with such an amazing team? I want you to turn to the person next to you and tell them one thing that they can bring to this incident that's going to help us recover even stronger than when we went into it. We're setting people off on a positive. We're focusing on something that we already know that they can do, to give them the confidence that even in this situation, there are things that they know that they can do, and we can work together and make change happen. And finally, we talk about champions of security being able to represent possibility. And this is really key, because we said at the beginning, we want security culture is about what people say and what people do that demonstrates what's important to them. So if we're talking about what goes wrong and using words like people are the weakest link and cyber criminals will always be one step ahead of us, it doesn't give people the right feeling. Now, there was a master at this, Muhammad Ali, and he was infamous for his trash talk. He said things like, you'll go down in round 5 and I'm the greatest boxer. He said it until he believed it. And he said it until everybody else believed it too. And still to this day, people believe that he is the greatest boxer. Now, whether that is factually accurate or not, I don't know. I'm not a boxing fan. But the point is, through his words and what he represented, he believed and everybody believed he was the best. So I challenge you to your own trash talk challenge. How often do you talk in the negative versus the positive about security? What about your team members? And can you try and change that? So I just want to leave you with this message. Imagine that you go away for 12 months. And when you come back, everything that you ever wanted to do with security culture and behaviours has changed. People are doing things differently. As you walk back in and switch on your computer, have a look around and look and listen to what people are saying and what people are doing in this new version of the culture. And then work out what your strengths are and who your champions are so you can work towards that security culture. Good luck and thank you very much.